Bad guy says, I've got your data and I'm not going to give it back. You have to give me some money and then I'll give you the key. The other type of threat is, I've got your data.
A ransomware attack works like this. Hackers infiltrate a target's computer system, encrypt critical files, and
lots of criminal organizations are finding out that they can get paid millions of dollars to disrupt our economy. If you compromise Kaseya, you can then take over the Kaseya infrastructure.
Team for us, some ways pre-ransomware is more stressful for us because when ransomware hits, you as an organization are thinking about all the things that you wish you had done prior or convinced the
by compromising a single trusted software vendor. Threat actors can gain a foothold in thousands of downstream client systems.
By an unusually sophisticated ransomware attack that hijacked widely used technology management software from a Miami-based supplier called Kaseya. The attackers changed a Kaseya tool called VSA, used by companies that manage technology at smaller businesses.
Third party. Vulnerabilities demonstrate that an organization's security is only as strong as its weakest vendor link. Sophisticated cartels have scaled their operations, specifically aiming for large enterprises with deep financial reserves.
This year alone, we've seen over 1,000 of these big enterprise ransomware attacks, what we call big game hunting. And the average ransom demand is somewhere around $5.7 million. And on average, we're seeing about 45, 46 of these per week. So I don't think that we're seeing more of them in volume. I think, we are, but not that much more. I think what we're hearing about it more from the media because it's starting to get people's attention.
Do we have any idea who's behind?
Targeting major companies ensures that even if only a fraction pay, the criminal operations remain highly profitable. Attacks targeting critical infrastructure have elevated cyber extortion into a primary national security threat.
Lots of criminal organizations are finding out that they can get paid millions of dollars to disrupt our economy. If you compromise Kaseya, you can then take over the Kaseya infrastructure to help broadcast ransomware to all of those unwitting victims.
After recent ransomware breaches at Colonial Pipeline and JBS, a major meat processor, Homeland Security warned in this recent intelligence report obtained by CBS News that ransomware attacks are likely.
When public utilities are fuel, networks are held hostage, the pressure to resolve the crisis quickly becomes overwhelming. Many prominent ransomware syndicates operate from nations that turn a blind eye to cybercrime directed at Western organizations.
Involvement in hiring criminal networks to invade and extort money around the world. One official said at least one American company had been targeted for a large ransom by hackers working in association with the Chinese intelligence service. While the public announcement represents a dramatic escalation in the increasingly urgent attempt by the Biden administration to stave off further breaches, Biden stopped short of applying new punishment against Beijing. Unlike many of the attacks emanating from Russia, the extortion attempts from China have closer links to the government.
Safe havens make traditional prosecution nearly impossible, leaving victims with zero legal leverage. The tactic of exfiltrating sensitive data prior to encryption ensures attackers maintain leverage even if backups are successfully restored.
Ransom. Hive ransomware affiliates employed a double extortion model. First, they infiltrated a victim's system and stole sensitive data. Next, the affiliates deployed malicious software, encrypting the victim's system, rendering it unusable. And finally, they demanded a ransom payment in exchange for a system decryption key and a promise not to publish any stolen data. Hive affiliates targeted critical infrastructure and some of our nation's most important industries. In one instance, in August 2021, Hive affiliates deployed.
Double extortion has effectively neutralized backups as a single, complete defense against cyber blackmail. For smaller firms, a prolonged network outage can rapidly lead to irreversible bankruptcy.
Brand name Knights of Old. A ransomware gang locked their computers and stole their data. This message appeared.
For now, let's keep all the tears and resentment to ourselves and try to build a constructive dialogue.
The gang demanded a ransom to put things back, but KMP didn't have the money. The company went bust because the hackers had worked out an employee's password.
Have you ever told them?
No.
Why?
Would you want to?
Faced with absolute liquidation, paying the extortionists can seem like the only viable path to business survival. Attackers thoroughly compromise internal systems before launching the final encryption phase to maximize operational paralysis.
Transnational cybercriminals use malicious software to hold digital systems hostage and demand a ransom. Hive ransomware affiliates employed a double extortion model. First, they infiltrated a victim's system and stole sensitive data. Next, the affiliates deployed malicious software, encrypting the victim's system, rendering it unusable. And finally, they demanded a ransom payment in exchange for a system decryption key.
By systematically disabling core services first, attackers ensure their target has no immediate way to fight back. To prevent reputational damage and drop in market value, a significant percentage of victims choose to settle quietly.
Can't do anything. The only way that you can unlock those files is to pay them. That's the ransom part of ransomware. So I know you're thinking, that sounds awful, but it's probably not going to happen to me. But the fact is, it happens every 11 seconds to a business. And the stats on this slide are probably pretty low, because these are the ones that people reported.
The fear of brand damage often drives organizations to resolve these breaches without involving regulatory agencies or media. While cybercustodial guidelines warn against compliance, the reality of physical operational freeze challenges these official stances.
Ransomware. You are encouraged not to pay the ransom. That might sound like ill advice, but that is the best practice. That's what researchers, cybersecurity researchers have recommended, that we should not pay. And the simple reason, and I shared this in the video, your computer will still be infected, possibly still be infected when or if you pay the ransom. Attackers may assume that you are
refusing to pay is the ethical ideal, but it remains a difficult policy to maintain when a company is actively bleeding capital. Decentralized financial systems allow actors to accept massive global transfers without triggering traditional bank controls.
And as part of that, the increased complexity creates just lots of opportunity for attackers. And then the ability to monetize through crypto. And then I think also the existence of safe havens, nation states that either can't or won't prosecute, but have a high degree of technical infrastructure. So, you have people who have access to technical systems, and there's really no friction for them. There's no potential risk or consequence. And
Decentralized payments have streamlined the monetization of cybercrime, turning it into a low-risk, high-reward enterprise. By imposing strict countdown timers on demands, attackers try to bypass deliberate corporate risk assessments.
The ransom note said if we didn't pay within 7 days, that they were going to publish all of our data, that we were expected to pay $10,000 through Bitcoin. Panic?
Je suis Félix Michaud, directeur général à la ville de Montmagny.
Artificial time constraints are engineered to induce panic, forcing rapid compliance before alternative options are explored. Minor oversights or unpatched software elements can serve as the primary gateway for total enterprise compromise.
And we couldn't find it. Our infection was on a file server. Nobody's using that as a desktop. There's no email being read. There's no website being visited. So I asked my team, look into this, figure out what the source of this was. And since we have some fairly advanced tooling deployed that allows us to see what may have happened in the past, we were able to identify the source of this infection as a malicious software update from a mandated tax.
A multi-billion-dollar corporation can be brought down by a single unpatched vulnerability left open on an edge server. threatening to leak private intellectual property. Customer data online creates immense pressure on corporate legal teams.
Several recent attacks have used a type of malicious software known as ransomware, which encrypts a victim's system and demands a payment in exchange for restoring access or refraining from publishing stolen data. This is especially dangerous because it can shut down an entire system and can cause chaos in a community, an industry, or even an entire country. And cyber criminals are now demanding and receiving more money.
Preventing a regulatory investigation and reputational fallout is often the main driver behind silent ransomware payouts. Data shows that many firms conclude that the cost of payment is significantly less than the cost of reconstruction.
10% of survey respondents said their organization paid the ransom. That is a sobering and stark stat for everyone in the IT and security space. But let's break down some of the color specifically around that 81% stat. 54% said yes, and we were able to recover the data. The idea behind a ransom is, hey, I've encrypted your data, pay me money, I give you a key. That's lovely, but 27% said they paid it.
The decision to settle is rarely about supporting crime. It is typically a cold, pragmatic business calculation. When hospitals or essential infrastructure are paralyzed, the delay in restoring networks poses a direct risk to human safety.
Acted by this ransomware deadly virus, which is actually brought to a halt the NHS system in the UK. They had to send patients back from hospitals because they couldn't access their data. That's the worst that we've heard happening right now across the world with the cyber data. And in fact, warnings are being sent out to Indian ATMs as well about their operation. But first, one of the places that's been impacted is Kerala and Panchayat offices.
When life-saving systems are offline, ethical debates around paying extortionists are quickly overshadowed by human necessity. The transition from passive data harvesting to active industrial disruption has changed the threat profile of cyber-attacks.
Is something that should be very disconcerting to everybody, and it is the disruptive and the destructive types of attacks that we've seen where data itself has been targeted. Previously, the data was used primarily from an espionage perspective, theft of intellectual property, or theft for financial gain, and the data was actually the chattel, right? The data was what was of value. Now the data is being used in ways to extort people through.
Where tools are no longer just tools of espionage, they have become mechanisms for severe economic warfare. Specialist recovery units work to isolate infected nodes and limit the footprint of the encryption before it spreads.
Sure. So I head up the incident management section of the National Cybersecurity Centre, whose overarching mission is about keeping the UK one of the safest places to live and work online. So in keeping with that, the incident management area are all about reducing the harm to the UK from cyber attacks. So responding to cyber attacks hitting the UK, particularly those that reach a particularly high threshold. So those that we talk about as being nationally significant. So
quick containment is critical, but stopping a fast-moving, automated threat requires exceptional defensive agility. The growth of cyber insurance has provided organizations with a financial mechanism to handle extortion demands.
A political or terror organization kidnaps a Western hostage. In those cases, there are a number of factors that determine the outcome. One is whether the particular hostage has insurance. There's something called kidnapping and ransom insurance that allows for a professional negotiator to be provided. There's a correlation between that kind of support and a successful outcome. And the other factor is whether they come from a country that is willing to engage in negotiations and ultimately potentially pay ransom.
While providing individual security, these policies can inadvertently validate the ransom model by ensuring attackers get paid. High-stress environments and human fatigue remain the primary vulnerabilities exploited by network attackers.
Identity theft.
Technical defenses are only as secure as the users who hold the access credentials. Ransomware is designed around economic asymmetry, causing maximum Disruption at a low cost to the attacker.
Very profitable to infect organizations with ransomware because they knew that organizations have money, and if they will be infected with ransomware and business process of organization will be stopped, they will pay. The second group consists of several third-party affiliates which were involved in famous ransomware as a service programs. So for the past few years, they were infecting individuals with ransomware, and they also understood that it is very profitable to infect individuals with their ransomware.
Threat groups exploit this leverage, knowing that business survival dictates a quick compromise. To break this cycle, organizations must pivot towards zero trust. Models that assume breach attempts are inevitable.
The first one is filling the holes in the laws and norms regarding cyberspace, cybercrime, and especially cyber warfare. The second one is to be able to find technical solutions to make vulnerability patching and the burden of vulnerability patching a thing of the past. We must eradicate one day. And in the world where trust is the most important thing, our third mission is being able to implement identity security.
Until deep defense replaces reactive cleanup, quiet payments will continue to support the digital extortion ecosystem. Until proactive defense replaces reactive cleanup, silent payments will continue to fund the global extortion ecosystem.